In order to experience a breakthrough into the process of your own spiritual awakening, there are 3 points that needs to be considered. First one, you need to recognize the value of having such an experience. Second point, it is important to understand how the process goes. And third, and just as important, we need to begin to incorporate in our daily lives new habits and a new routine that will propel us into the finish line. And so in this video here, I'm going to briefly cover those 3 points, and I'm going to leave you with a very practical exercise that you can begin to incorporate that will facilitate the process in your life and move you through the finish line. Stay tuned. Welcome to Inner Lights. My name is Angela. As I have mentioned before, I'm going to be sharing with you about the process of awakening, which actually can be likened to awaking out of the dream that we had at night and realizing in the morning that there is another reality other than that which was being presented to us during the dream. In other words, the process of awakening can be likened to awakening from the dream of separation, limitation, unworthiness, guilt, shame, failure. We're going to begin to awaken out of that perception of reality and who we are to an idea that we are actually a spiritual being that was created in the image and likeness of that which created us. Therefore, we have access to wisdom, we have access to protection, we have access to the care of something much greater than ourselves. In other words, during the process of awakening, we will begin to perceive another reality other than that which has been presented to us since the day we were born, and we will begin to regain a connection to the source of all things, here and now. Now, just because you go through the process of awakening doesn't mean that your life is going to be free of difficulties and problems. But what you're going to experience is that during the process of awakening, you will begin to exercise some spiritual muscles that would allow you to move through the storms of life without being devastated by them. And I'm going to give an illustration here. The person who has not developed themselves spiritually, who still think of themselves as being this physical body separated from the source, they can be equivalent to a tree that has very stiff trunk, very shallow roots, and that was planted away from any water. So it is not only completely dependent on the conditions outside of itself, whether if it's raining or it's not, but when a strong storm comes, because it has shallow roots and a very stiff trunk, it has the potential to be completely turned down, be completely devastated. A person, however, who have dedicated themselves to the spiritual path, who have trained themselves to build some spiritual muscles, they're like a tree that has been planted by the riverside, and it has deep roots and have very flexible trunk. Because it's planted by the riverside, it's able to get water regardless of if it's raining or not raining. And not only that, because it has deep roots and a very flexible trunk, when the storms of life come, it's able to withstand the storms without being devastated by it. So those are one of the qualities that we begin to acquire as we move through the process. Another important component of understanding how the process works is to realize that the process of spiritual awakening is actually a process of mind training. Whereas before you used to think and feel a certain way, now you're being guided to think and feel a completely different way. And actually, as you can tell, it's easier said than done, because we have been programmed our whole life to think and feel and believe in a certain way. To believe that we are a victim of the world outside of ourselves, to believe that we are limited, to believe that we are not worthy, not good enough, to believe that there's something wrong with us, that there's something missing. So we have been conditioned to believe in separation, that we are separate from Source, that we need to struggle and strive in life in order to be able to maintain and sustain ourselves. So to make that switch from feeling and believing in that way to feeling and believing that we have been created in the image and likeness of that which created us, that actually the perception of separation is just a perception. We have never been separated from a Source. We have always been one with Source. The wisdom of Source, the power of the Source is always available to us. So to make that switch, it's easier said than done. And it will require us to begin to acquire new habits of living. And I'm going to be talking about it a little bit later on in the video, because it is by implementing new habits in our daily routine that we will begin to build our spiritual muscles to be able to move through that process. It's very much like when you want to develop yourself physically, when you want to build some muscles, you begin to go to the gym and you begin to lift weights and you begin to do exercises. Spiritually speaking, the same thing is truth. We need to begin to build some spiritual muscles so that we can move through this process and be able to get to the finish line. And I will be sharing with you some of the things that I do, that you can do it as well, that is very practical, that will lead you towards the fulfillment of that process of awakening. And so, as I mentioned before, the process of awakening is a process of mind training, in which you're going to be able to train your mind to think and be a certain way. Because ultimately, our state of being, our mind, is the projector room. We're going to be projecting out into the universe, and the universe will respond likewise. So in the process of awakening, by developing our spiritual muscles, we will be able to begin to have some control of what we think and how we feel in spite of the circumstances of life. And it is by attaining mastery of our inner universe that we will begin to have some control over the situations that are taking place outside of ourselves. So the key here is not to change anything outside of ourselves. The key here is to begin to attain mastery of our inner universe so that we can have some measure of control into what's going on outside of ourselves. Now, talking about practical things that we can do on the process of awakening, all of you know, and all spiritual paths will point to the fact that we need to begin to practice meditation and mindfulness on a daily basis. I'm not going into depth here in this video. I would like to talk about other exercises that we can do. But if you are not doing so, I would highly encourage you to begin to spend 10-15 minutes a day into meditation. And whenever possible, remember to do, I will call it a 1 minute mindfulness practice, which is you're going to begin to incorporate in your daily routine 1 minute here, 1 minute there, in which you purposefully bring your awareness to the present moment into the activity that you are doing. Whether you're taking a shower, whether you are driving, whether you're taking your dogs for a walk, whether you are doing the dishes, doing laundry, whatever it is, you're going to recognize the value of such practice and you begin to implement 1 minute practice of mindfulness wherever possible. And what is the benefit of it? The benefit of it is that you begin to exercise your spiritual muscle to develop the ability to bring your focus of attention wherever you want it to be. That's a very important skill to have in the process of your awakening, to develop the spiritual muscle and the ability to have some measure of control of where you're going to put your focus of attention and where you're going to be with your awareness. In other words, you need to learn how to calm down the mind and be more present here and now. Because one of the things that blocks your ability to experience some measure of spiritual awakening is actually when the mind is extremely busy, always in the future and always in the past. That is precisely one of the major blockages to your own spiritual awakening, the mind that is extremely busy. So you need to begin to train yourself to calm down, to be more present, to become more aware of your breathing here and now. That's one of the things that is common for all spiritual practices is the ability to either meditate, no, not either, but both, to meditate and to be fully present here and now. The second, another practice that I would like to encourage you to do it, I started practicing like about a year and a half ago, and I was inspired by the book The Way of Mastery, and also most recently inspired by the videos of Tony Robbins and Joe Dispenza, which is to begin to develop the ability to hold on to a specific vibration, a specific feeling, a feeling of well-being, but to be able to do that on a daily basis. Not just when you go to a workshop that they make you feel good and you make you feel good about yourself, but to incorporate on your daily routine, even if it's for 5 minutes to begin. I usually do that after my second meditation. I do 2 meditations. I do one short one in the morning and one in the afternoon, a little bit longer. And right after I do my meditation, I begin to practice to elicit some high vibrational feelings. Sometimes I use music, sometimes I do affirmations, but I've been doing that regularly. I'm going to tell you the benefit that it has happened in my life to share with you. But what we can do is this. For example, the book The Way of Mastery encourages us to sit in a chair after you do meditation as if you are a Christ-like being. For those of you that are not familiar with metaphysics, the term Christ represents the seed of divinity within all of us, not just with Jesus, but with all of us. It has different names in different religions. You can call Buddha nature, you can call the inner light, Emmanuel, Krishna, whatever you want to call it, but it's the divine aspect of ourselves. So he encourages us to sit as if we were already the Christ. How would you feel? Would you be concerned about tomorrow? Would you be resented towards somebody? Would you be afraid of lack and imitation? Would you feel empowered to be able to create, to be able to help, to be able to love, to be able to serve? How would you feel? So the book encourages us for sitting for 5 minutes every day as if we are already it. And another thing that I implement on my spiritual practices after I do my meditation is to begin to contemplate high vibrational thought and get in touch with them. And I'm going to give you some examples here. Peace, joy, and the fullness of life goes with me wherever I am. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I am a powerful creator. I'm able to create by how I focus my awareness and how I feel. And I do have the capacity to choose how I feel every single moment of the day. And according to the Course in Miracles, I elect or I choose I choose the peace of this present moment again and again and again. If you like scripture, like Joel Goldsmith loves scripture, you can also in this exercise begin to contemplate some scripture passages, such as 1,000 may fall to my left, 10,000 may fall to my right, but no evil will come nigh my dwelling place. Greater is that which is in me than that which is in the world. Yes, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. It doesn't matter what passages of scripture you choose to contemplate, but if they are powerful and if they touch your heart, that is worth it. And what I've learned with this practice is this. I've been doing it regularly for about a little bit more than a year. Once I finish the exercise, I tend to feel like so good, and nothing has happened outside of myself, but this exercise makes me feel really good about life. And when I am faced with the problem, with the difficulty, like this week I had issues with work and I was lying down in bed and I began to experience the thoughts of concern and frustration. And I immediately realized that if I get up and I'm going to sit on my meditation chair and I'm just going to go through my exercises, first I do my breath work and then I do a short meditation and then I begin to contemplate higher thoughts, I was able to immediately make a shift from concentrating in things that makes me feel frustrated and worry into concentrating in things that makes me feel empowered and confident. So I begin to notice how the daily exercise of choosing, being able to choose how I feel and begin to elicit some high vibrational emotion, not only is helping me build the spiritual muscle that I need to be able to make the correction within myself, especially when I'm faced with a difficult time, as to what do I want to think and how do I want to focus my attention at. So I'd like to encourage you to begin to incorporate on your daily routines things that will promote your growth, and most importantly, that will help you develop your spiritual muscles. Like I mentioned before, if you want to build physical muscles, you need to go to the gym. If you want to build your spiritual muscles, you need to create a daily routine that will promote the exercising of those muscles. And so to bring this video to a conclusion, I'm just gonna recall the key things here. First of all, understand and recognize the value of going through the experience of awakening. It is your ticket to freedom. The process involves mind training, involves developing new habits of being. And when you begin on a daily basis to incorporate those new habits, you will be able to get to the finish line and experience a much greater sense of freedom right here and right now. I hope you have enjoyed this experience here with me. If you like this video, please feel free to share it with your friends. If you have not done so, I recommend you to subscribe to my channel so you can be notified when new videos like this come into place. Having said that, from my heart to your heart, I see you in love and light. Thanks for watching. Namaste.